We've all felt it, that hollow ache when someone we care about ignores us. Maybe it's a text left unanswered, a glance overlooked, or an emotional withdrawal that stings like ice. And in that moment, everything in us wants to chase, to ask, why won't you look at me? Why won't you hear me? Self-worth is one of the most fundamental truths of our existence. It is the belief that at your core, you are enough not because of what you do, what you achieve, or what others say about you, but simply because you exist. However, in a world where external validation often feels like currency, it's easy to lose sight of this truth. The desire to be seen, acknowledged, and appreciated can lead us to measure our value through someone else's attention. But when you begin to chase approval or affection, you compromise the very foundation of your self-worth, which is inherently non-negotiable. At its essence, self-worth is the recognition that you are whole and complete as you are. It doesn't hinge on external circumstances or other people's opinions. But society often teaches us the opposite. From an early age, we are conditioned to seek validation. Gold stars for good behavior, grades that measure our intelligence, awards that quantify our talent, all these reinforce the idea that our value is something to be earned. Over time, this belief infiltrates our relationships. We start to think, if I can just prove my worth to this person, they will give me what I need. This mindset is dangerous because it shifts the power of defining your worth from within yourself to someone else. Chasing after people who ignore you is one of the clearest indicators of misplaced self-worth. When someone ignores you, be it a friend, a partner, or a colleague, it can feel like a rejection of who you are. That sting of being unseen or unheard cuts deeply, triggering our insecurities and questioning our adequacy. The natural response is to chase, to work harder, try more, and prove yourself worthy of their attention. But this pursuit often leads to more frustration and pain. Why? Because the very act of chasing implies that your worth is contingent on their acknowledgement. When you chase, you're essentially saying your opinion of me matters more than my own opinion of myself. It's a surrendering of your power, a quiet dismissal of your innate value. Instead of standing firm in the belief that you are enough, you place your sense of self in their hands. And the truth is, no one else has the capacity to define your worth. Their attention or lack thereof does not increase or diminish your value. It simply reflects their capacity, priorities, or perspective. It's not about you, it's about them. Holding on to your self-worth means refusing to negotiate it, even when it's challenged. This doesn't mean you won't feel hurt when someone dismisses or ignores you. Pain is a natural response to disconnection. But pain doesn't have to dictate your actions. When you anchor yourself in the belief that you are enough, you can acknowledge the hurt without letting it erode your sense of value. You can say, this moment is painful, but it doesn't define me. This is what it means to live from a place of grounded self-worth. It's important to recognize the difference between feedback and self-worth. Feedback, when given constructively, can help us grow and improve. It's about behavior, not our intrinsic value. However, when someone ignores you, it's rarely constructive feedback. Or often, it's a lack of communication, respect, or alignment. Trying to interpret their silence or absence as a reflection of your value is not only unproductive, but also misleading. People's actions are influenced by their own stories, struggles, and limitations. Their failure to see you doesn't mean you're unworthy. It simply means they're unable or unwilling to show up in the way you deserve. To truly honor your self-worth, you must learn to detach it from external validation. This doesn't mean isolating yourself or refusing connection. It means cultivating a sense of worthiness that remains intact regardless of how others respond. This foundation is built on self-compassion, self-respect, and self-awareness. It's about embracing your imperfections, acknowledging your strengths, and treating yourself with the kindness and dignity you would offer to someone you love. One powerful way to reinforce your self-worth is to practice boundary setting. Boundaries are an essential act of self-respect. They communicate, this is how I deserve to be treated, and I will not settle for less. When you set boundaries with those who ignore you, you protect your emotional well-being and reaffirm your value. You are saying, I am worth the effort of mutual respect and communication. If you cannot meet me there, I will not diminish myself to chase you. Another key aspect of self-worth is recognizing that it's a journey, not a destination. There will be moments when you feel confident and moments when doubt creeps in. This is normal. What matters is how you respond to those doubts. Instead of seeking external reassurance, turn inward. Ask yourself, what do I need right now to feel seen and valued? How can I provide that for myself? This shift from external dependency to internal empowerment is transformative. In relationships, self-worth creates a powerful ripple effect. When you honor your value, you inspire others to do the same. You attract people who see and respect your boundaries, who appreciate you for who you are rather than what you can do for them. Conversely, when you chase after those who ignore you, you risk surrounding yourself with individuals who take you for granted. By standing firm in your worth, you create space for authentic, meaningful connections to flourish. At its core, self-worth is about choosing yourself again and again, in every moment. It's about recognizing that you deserve love, respect, and kindness, not because of what you achieve, but because of who you are. And when you embrace this truth, you become unshakable. People may come and go, their opinions may rise and fall, but your worth remains constant, untouchable, and non-negotiable. Life often feels like a race, where every moment demands a response. When we face uncertainty, rejection, or silence from others, our instinct is to act immediately. We rush to fix things, to understand what went wrong, or to prove our worth. But sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is pause. The pause isn't a retreat or a sign of weakness. It's a deliberate and powerful choice to stop, reflect, and give ourselves the space we need to respond with intention, rather than reacting out of fear or desperation. Pausing requires courage because it defies the urge for instant gratification. When someone ignores us or when a situation doesn't unfold as we hoped, our minds crave resolution. Silence can feel unbearable because it creates a void where our insecurities thrive. Why aren't they responding? Did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? These thoughts spiral, urging us to fill the gap with action, often without considering whether that action serves us. But rushing to fill the silence rarely provides clarity or comfort. Instead, it can lead to choices rooted in anxiety rather than confidence. The act of pausing is a radical declaration of self-trust. It's a moment where you say, I don't need to act right now. I trust myself to handle this when the time is right. This trust doesn't come easily. It requires sitting with discomfort, allowing the questions to surface without immediately seeking answers. It's about resisting the temptation to chase after people or outcomes, recognizing that clarity often comes not from doing more, but from stepping back. When you pause, you give yourself the gift of perspective. In the heat of the moment, emotions can cloud your judgment. Frustration, fear, or disappointment can push you to react in ways that you might later regret. Pausing creates space to process those emotions without being ruled by them. It allows you to ask, what am I feeling right now? What do I truly need in this moment? These questions help you reconnect with yourself, ensuring that your next step aligns with your values and needs rather than simply being a knee-jerk reaction. Pausing also creates room for the other person involved, if there is one, to respond on their own terms. Relationships are not one-sided, and meaningful connections cannot be forced. When someone ignores you or fails to meet your expectations, chasing them often backfires. It can push them further away, reinforcing the distance you're trying to close. By pausing, you allow the relationship to breathe. You give the other person the opportunity to come forward voluntarily, which is far more meaningful than a response that feels coerced. Beyond relationships, pausing is a tool for self-discovery. It's in those quiet moments, free from the noise of constant action, that we can hear the voice of our intuition. Intuition doesn't shout, it whispers. It requires stillness to emerge. When you pause, you may find that the answers you are chasing externally already exist within you. You may realize that what you were seeking from others' validation, understanding, or support is something you can give yourself. Pausing can also be an act of self-preservation. Chasing after people or outcomes can be emotionally exhausting. It depletes your energy and reinforces the false belief that your worth depends on someone else's recognition. By choosing to pause, you protect your emotional well-being. You set a boundary not just with others, but with yourself, saying, I will not sacrifice my peace in pursuit of something that isn't ready or willing to meet me. This boundary is an act of self-love, a reminder that you deserve to operate from a place of fullness, not depletion. In today's fast-paced world, pausing can feel counterintuitive. We are constantly bombarded with messages that equate productivity with worth. The idea of stopping, even briefly, can feel like falling behind. But the truth is, the pause is often where growth happens. It's where you gain clarity about your priorities, your boundaries, and your desires. It's where you learn to sit with uncertainty and trust the process, even when the outcome isn't immediately clear. The courage to pause is also a recognition of your own power. It's a refusal to let external circumstances dictate your internal state. When you pause, you reclaim your agency. You remind yourself that you are not at the mercy of someone else's actions or inactions. You have the strength to wait, to reflect, and to respond from a place of wisdom rather than impulse. Practicing the courage to pause isn't easy, especially if you're used to constantly being in motion. It requires patience and self-compassion. There will be moments when the urge to act feels overwhelming. In those moments, remind yourself that the pause is not a failure to act, it is an intentional act in itself. It's a commitment to honoring your emotions without letting them control you. It's a decision to prioritize your well-being over immediate resolution. The beauty of the pause is that it doesn't just serve you in moments of conflict or uncertainty. It's a practice that can enhance every aspect of your life. When you pause, you become more present. You notice the small joys that might otherwise go unnoticed. You listen more deeply to yourself and to others. You make decisions with greater clarity and confidence. The pause becomes not just a response to challenges, but a way of being an ongoing practice of mindfulness and intentionality. Embracing the courage to pause is ultimately about reclaiming your power and your peace. It's about recognizing that you don't have to react to every silence, chase after every answer, or resolve every uncertainty in the moment. You have the strength to sit with the unknown, to trust yourself, and to allow the right answers and connections to emerge in their own time. The pause is where transformation begins. Rejection can feel like one of the most painful experiences in life. Whether it's being passed over for an opportunity, losing a relationship, or feeling dismissed by someone you value, rejection cuts deeply. It challenges our sense of worth, stirs self-doubt, and leaves us questioning what we did wrong. But while rejection feels personal, it often has little to do with our value and everything to do with alignment or the lack of it. In truth, rejection isn't a definitive no to who you are, it's a redirection, pointing you towards something or someone better suited for you. At the heart of this concept is the idea that rejection doesn't close doors, it redirects your path. When you face rejection, it's easy to see it as a dead end. The immediate instinct is often to dwell on what was lost or to chase after what is no longer accessible. But the truth is, rejection often saves you from investing further in situations, relationships, or opportunities that aren't meant for you. It's a moment of clarity, even if it doesn't feel like it at first. Consider how often we hold on to ideas or people simply because they're familiar. Familiarity creates a sense of comfort, even if it isn't truly fulfilling. When rejection disrupts that comfort, it can feel like the ground has been pulled from beneath you. But that disruption is necessary. It forces you to reevaluate what you're holding on to and why. It compels you to ask whether the path you were on was truly serving your growth or if you were settling for less than you deserve. When rejection occurs, it creates space to pause, reflect, and pivot. This pause, while uncomfortable, is where transformation begins. It's an opportunity to look at your life with fresh eyes and ask, what now? That question isn't about scrambling to find the next best thing. It's about aligning with what truly resonates with you, what honors your values, and what fulfills you on a deeper level. Rejection can also act as a mirror, reflecting back aspects of yourself or your life that need attention. For example, being rejected in a relationship might highlight areas where you've compromised too much of yourself or ignored red flags. Losing out on a professional opportunity might reveal skills you want to develop or aspirations you hadn't fully acknowledged. In this way, rejection becomes a teacher, guiding you toward greater self-awareness and clarity. One of the hardest parts of rejection is separating it from your self-worth. It's natural to feel that being turned away means you aren't good enough. This narrative is especially pervasive in a culture that celebrates external validation. But rejection isn't a measurement of your value, it's a reflection of fit. A failed relationship doesn't mean you're unlovable, it means that connection wasn't the right match. A missed job opportunity doesn't mean you're incapable, it means there's a different role, one more aligned with your strengths and purpose, waiting for you. Understanding rejection as redirection requires a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing it as a final judgment, view it as part of a larger story. Life is dynamic, and rejection is just one chapter. It might feel like the end, but often it's the beginning of something better. When you embrace this mindset, you can approach rejection not as an obstacle, but as a step toward clarity and alignment. Take, for example, people who have shared stories of life-altering rejections. A writer's manuscript is rejected by publishers dozens of times before it becomes a bestseller. An athlete is cut from a team only to go on to achieve even greater success elsewhere. A person endures heartbreak only to later find a relationship that's more authentic and fulfilling. In each case, the initial rejection felt devastating, but with time and perseverance, it became clear that the rejection was a pivotal turning point and necessary redirection towards something greater. The idea of rejection as redirection also applies to timing. Sometimes rejection isn't about the opportunity or the relationship itself, but about when it happens. You might not be ready for what you thought you wanted, or the situation might not be prepared to meet you where you are. Timing plays a significant role in life's unfolding, and rejection can be a way of recalibrating. It redirects you to focus on what you need to learn, heal, or grow before the right moment arrives. Rejection also tests and strengthens your resilience. It challenges you to keep moving forward even when the path feels uncertain. This resilience isn't about ignoring the pain of rejection, it's about acknowledging it and choosing to believe in possibilities beyond it. When you embrace rejection as redirection, you build the confidence to trust in your journey. You learn to see setbacks as temporary and to remain open to opportunities you may not have initially considered. There's also a spiritual element to seeing rejection as redirection. For those who believe in a higher power, the universe, or fate, rejection can be viewed as part of a larger plan. It's a way of saying, this isn't for you, but something else is. This perspective encourages trust in the unfolding of life, even when the road ahead feels unclear. It reminds you that sometimes the things you think you want aren't the things you truly need. Rejection isn't easy, and it's okay to grieve the loss of what you hoped for. Feeling hurt, disappointed, or frustrated is a natural part of the process. But once those emotions settle, try to look at rejection through the lens of redirection. What opportunities does it create? What lessons does it teach? What paths does it open that you hadn't considered before? Each rejection carries the potential for growth and transformation. It's a nudge, sometimes a forceful one, pushing you toward a life that's more aligned with who you are and what you deserve. When you embrace rejection as redirection, you allow yourself to move forward with hope, resilience, and a deeper understanding of your path. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many people see them as walls that keep others out or as acts of defiance meant to protect oneself from harm. But boundaries are not about separation or exclusion, they're about connection, respect, and care. They are an essential expression of love, both for yourself and for the people around you. When we set boundaries, we create the conditions for healthy, meaningful relationships by clearly defining what we need, what we can give, and how we want to engage with others. At their core, boundaries are an acknowledgement of your own worth. They are a way of saying, I matter enough to take care of myself, and I trust myself to communicate what I need. This self-respect isn't selfish, it's a foundation for thriving relationships. When you neglect to set boundaries, you risk overextending yourself, allowing resentment to build or losing sight of your own needs. Boundaries are the antidote to this self-sacrifice. They ensure that you have the emotional, mental, and physical energy to show up authentically and wholeheartedly. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're someone who has been conditioned to prioritize others' needs over your own. You might worry about being seen as selfish, difficult, or unkind. But in truth, boundaries are a profound act of kindness. They prevent misunderstandings and resentment by fostering clear communication. When you set boundaries, you are giving others a guidebook on how to care for you. You're also modeling healthy behavior, showing them that it's okay to honor their own needs as well. Boundaries also create safety in relationships. Without them, interactions can become unclear or even chaotic. Imagine trying to navigate a friendship or partnership where neither person communicates their limits. One person might unknowingly overstep, while the other silently tolerates behavior that feels uncomfortable or disrespectful. Over time, this dynamic erodes trust and connection. By setting boundaries, you establish a mutual understanding of what is acceptable and what is not. This clarity strengthens relationships as both parties know they can engage with each other in ways that feel safe and respectful. Another important aspect of boundaries is that they help differentiate between responsibility and accountability. Often, people blur these lines, taking on emotional or logistical burdens that aren't theirs to carry. For example, in a relationship, you might feel obligated to manage someone else's feelings, even at the expense of your own well-being. Boundaries help clarify what you are responsible for your emotions, choices, and actions, and what you are not another person's reactions, expectations, or behavior. This distinction isn't about avoiding accountability, it's about recognizing where your power ends and theirs begins. In doing so, you free yourself from the weight of trying to control what is beyond your reach. Boundaries are especially important when navigating challenging dynamics, such as with people who repeatedly push your limits or disregard your needs. Without boundaries, you might find yourself constantly drained or stuck in cycles of conflict. Setting firm, yet compassionate boundaries with these individuals protects your energy while giving them an opportunity to adjust their behavior. It's not about punishment, it's about creating a structure where mutual respect can grow. The process of setting boundaries begins with self-awareness. To communicate your limits, you first need to understand them. This requires tuning into your emotions, recognizing when something feels uncomfortable or unsustainable, and identifying what you need to feel supported. For instance, you might notice that constantly answering late-night work emails leaves you feeling stressed and irritable. From this awareness, you can set a boundary, such as turning off notifications after a certain time or communicating your availability to colleagues. Once you've identified your boundaries, the next step is to communicate them clearly and kindly. This can be challenging, particularly if you fear conflict or rejection. But remember, boundaries aren't about controlling others, they're about sharing your needs. A boundary might sound like, I value our time together, but I need to leave by 8 p.m. to get enough rest, or I'm happy to help with this project, but I'll need at least a week to complete it. These statements are direct yet respectful, inviting understanding rather than confrontation. It's also important to recognize that not everyone will respond positively to your boundaries, especially if they've benefited from you not having any. Some people might push back, test your limits, or even express frustration. This doesn't mean your boundaries are wrong, it simply means they're adjusting to the new dynamics. Stay firm yet empathetic. Remind yourself that honoring your boundaries is an act of love, not just for yourself, but for the relationship. Healthy relationships will adapt and grow stronger with boundaries in place, while unhealthy ones may naturally fall away. Boundaries also require maintenance. They're not something you set once and forget. As your needs evolve or circumstances change, your boundaries might need to shift as well. This ongoing practice ensures that your relationships remain balanced and aligned with your current reality. It's okay to revisit and renegotiate boundaries as needed. This flexibility reflects your commitment to both self-care and connection. Finally, boundaries are not just about saying no, they're also about creating space for the things that matter most to you. By protecting your time, energy, and emotional well-being, boundaries allow you to engage more fully in the areas of life that bring you joy and fulfillment. They enable you to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion, ensuring that your contributions are sustainable and meaningful. Ultimately, boundaries are an expression of love because they honor the humanity of everyone involved. They acknowledge that you have limits and needs just as others do. They create a framework for healthy, respectful interactions where everyone's dignity is upheld. By embracing boundaries, you foster relationships that are rooted in mutual care, trust, and authenticity. In our fast-paced, achievement-driven world, it's easy to get caught in the trap of performance. Whether it's meeting deadlines at work, excelling in our personal lives, or trying to fit into societal expectations, we often measure our worth by how well we perform. The pressure to constantly achieve and present ourselves in the best possible light can leave us feeling disconnected from ourselves and others. We might win the race or reach the top of the ladder, but along the way, we risk losing what matters most: genuine human connection. The truth is that connection, not performance, is the bedrock of a meaningful life. When we choose connection over performance, we are choosing authenticity, vulnerability, and the real beauty of relationships. Connection isn't about how well we perform in front of others, it's about being seen and heard for who we truly are, flaws and all. When we prioritize performance, we often focus on external metrics. These might be achievements, appearances, or other tangible results that are measurable and visible to others. On the surface, performance feels rewarding because it offers instant recognition and approval. We are often praised for our achievements, and this praise reinforces the belief that our value lies in what we can do, not who we are. This approach might give us a temporary sense of accomplishment, but it can be hollow if we neglect our inner lives and the relationships that nurture us. Choosing connection over performance requires a shift in mindset. Instead of focusing solely on what you do, you begin to ask, who am I in this moment? It's about showing up as your authentic self, free from the need to impress or meet external expectations. This shift can feel vulnerable, even scary, because it requires us to let go of the armor of perfection and embrace the raw, unpolished parts of ourselves. But this vulnerability is where true connection thrives. In relationships, connection is the thread that binds us to others. It is the deep bond formed when two people are able to drop their facades and show their true selves. The moments when we share our struggles, joys, hopes, and fears are the moments that matter most. True connection isn't about how perfectly we perform in a relationship or how much we can give. It's about the willingness to be open and honest, to show up imperfectly, and to trust that our worth doesn't depend on our ability to meet someone's expectations. However, in a world that glorifies productivity, performance can often seem like the safer choice. If we perform well, we earn praise, love, and recognition. These external rewards feel reassuring because they validate our worth. But when we lean too heavily on performance, we can become disconnected from our true selves. We begin to define ourselves by what we do rather than who we are. We risk losing touch with the people around us, focusing more on achievements and less on the meaningful interactions that bring us joy, comfort, and support. Choosing connection over performance can help us reclaim our sense of self. It's a choice to be present, to show up for others without trying to prove our worth. It's about creating space for deep, meaningful conversations that go beyond surface-level pleasantries. When we stop focusing on impressing others and start focusing on understanding them, we allow for more genuine, fulfilling relationships. In these moments, we aren't performing for anyone's approval. We're simply being with them, sharing in the human experience. This approach also allows us to develop a greater sense of empathy. When we are consumed by performance, we can become so focused on our own goals that we forget to truly see the people around us. We might fail to notice their struggles, or worse, we might overlook their need for connection. But when we choose connection, we open ourselves to others' stories, challenges, and triumphs. We listen more deeply, offering support and understanding instead of trying to outdo or impress. We begin to build relationships rooted in mutual respect, where both parties feel valued for who they are, not just what they can offer. Choosing connection over performance also impacts our relationship with ourselves. Performance often leads to self-criticism. When we fall short of our own high expectations, we might feel inadequate or unworthy. We might start to believe that we are only valuable when we are achieving, succeeding, or presenting ourselves perfectly. But connection with ourselves doesn't require perfection. It requires acceptance. It means embracing all parts of ourselves, even the imperfect ones, and recognizing that our value isn't defined by how well we perform. Self-connection is about understanding, caring for, and being kind to ourselves, something that performance rarely offers. In our professional lives, this choice can be just as transformative. Many people view their careers as a constant competition, always trying to outperform their colleagues or hit the next milestone. Performance might drive success in terms of promotions, awards, or recognition, but it can also lead to burnout, stress, and dissatisfaction. On the other hand, when we choose connection at work, we begin to build stronger, more collaborative relationships with colleagues. We focus less on competing for attention and more on working together to achieve shared goals. This shift doesn't undermine productivity. In fact, it often enhances it. When people feel connected and valued, they are more motivated, engaged, and committed to their work. Moreover, connection over performance fosters a culture of kindness and vulnerability, which leads to better outcomes for teams and organizations. When people feel safe enough to be themselves without the pressure to perform flawlessly, they are more likely to take risks, share ideas, and innovate. Connection creates a foundation where creativity can thrive, where people feel empowered to show up authentically without fear of judgment. Choosing connection over performance also invites us to slow down. Performance often drives us to move faster, do more, and accomplish things as quickly as possible. But connection requires patience. It's about being present in the moment, not rushing to the next task or achievement. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, slowing down to nurture relationships is a revolutionary act. It's about savoring the moments with the people you love, investing in the depth of those interactions rather than the quantity of tasks completed. When you choose connection over performance, you open yourself up to a life that is richer, more fulfilling, and deeply meaningful. Connection is where the heart of life resides. It is where you find joy, growth, and authenticity. It is in the moments where we let go of our need to perform and simply be. In conclusion, choosing connection over performance is not just a shift in behavior, it is a profound change in mindset and values. It calls us to embrace vulnerability, authenticity, and the richness of human relationships rather than relying on the validation of external achievements. And by prioritizing connection, we invite deeper, more meaningful bonds with others and ourselves. We give ourselves permission to show up imperfectly, knowing that our worth isn't determined by how much we can do or achieve, but by who we are in the moment. Ultimately, the true rewards of life come from the connections we nurture, not the performances we put on. When we choose connection, we create space for love, understanding, and growth qualities that bring fulfillment far beyond any measure of success or accomplishment. Thank you.